Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to the AME Food Testing Show. Today's guest, Craig Overlock, Senior Partner, Sweeney. Craig has over 20 years recruiting senior management for food companies ranging from $10 million to over $30 billion in revenue. His clients have included Coca-Cola, Kraft Foods, ConAgra, Welch Foods, Dole Foods, Keebler. Other Sweeney clients have included International Life Science Institute, Food Products Association, and the National Center for Food Safety and Technology. He is a former manager of staffing, R&D, manufacturing at Helene Curtis International. He's a member of the Southern California Institute of Food Technologists. He's a member and vice president of the Southern California Association for Food Protection. He has a master's degree in organizational development from Loyola University. Now, welcome with me, Craig Overlock, and today's issue, employment issues in the food safety business. Craig?
Good morning, Andy.
Good morning. Would you like to update us beyond what I've already read about you?
No, I think that says it all. Appreciate that.
Wonderful. Today we have a timely topic. That topic is on everybody's mind, particularly in today's economy. What are we doing about our jobs and in the food safety business, and what can we do to improve them? Let me ask you the first question. What do individuals need to know and do in today's economy?
Andy, the first thing that individuals need to understand is that food safety is a very small universe. And people either know you or they will know you or they'll know about you. And therefore, everything that applies to any job searcher in any business is even more important. So we're talking about reputation management. So that means that you need to handle your job search with the same professionalism that you bring to your job every day. And that may sound obvious, but I'm constantly seeing people who are bringing a very casual attitude to how they present themselves out to their peers. And another thing is, think of the business side of your organization. Always think of the business side. Think about how your company makes money, and conversely, how they lose money. Think past to the end of your shift today. And when you think about how your company makes money or loses money, maybe that's operational efficiencies, and particularly with a lower margin service or a product, maybe that is your advantage in the marketplace. But you need to be thinking like a business person. There's a real shortage of managers and leaders in the food safety industry. And for someone to make the jump from the bench into a genuine managerial position, he or she has to start thinking like a business manager. And regarding the job search specifically, from a strategic standpoint, you need to understand that the posted position profile that you see on Indeed or Careers in Food or whatever site that you happen to be visiting is a static document. A position description is a static document. Jobs are not static. And don't view them like that. Don't screen yourself out on things that might not actually be required. And from a tactical standpoint, though, be mindful when you're applying for a position that is posted. Be mindful of keywords. You probably heard that 100 times, that the tracking software that companies use will screen people out for not having the correct keywords. So be mindful of using the right jargon, and don't screen yourself out on the basis of your resume or applying into a position that is posted because you don't know the right words to use. And then when it comes to sending your resume, Andy, you make your resume bulletproof. And again, this is something that could sound obvious. You hear it all the time, but all the time people will do a slipshod resume. I've been telling people for years and years and years, this is the only element of the game that you have complete control over. It's a big part of your personal branding. You have complete control over your resume, the advertisement for yourself, possibly the only chance you'll get to make an impression. And make no mistake, you are being judged. So why wouldn't you put maximum effort and care into your resume? It's not magic, not difficult. You don't need to pay a resume writer to produce one, unless your command of the English language is not at a polished professional level. If you have to use a third party, do it, but make sure that you edit the final product with heavy scrutiny. I've seen plenty of third-party resumes that are train wrecks because the preparer misunderstood the industry jargon and made mistakes that weren't caught by the owner. And in some cases, I can tell you that resume gaffes are important enough to get you flushed from consideration. So do it right. And another thing is be active externally, outside your company. Get known in the industry. Get on LinkedIn. Do a good profile. And by the way, do a good profile like you would your resume. Don't just put your jobs up there. Again, this is a chance to advertise and promote yourself. Join relevant LinkedIn groups. Get exposed. Join the IAFP and or the affiliate organization in your area. Network with peers. Again, become known. Another thing that you can do as an individual is you look at your business. How do you see your business? Are you in a transactional business, a commodity business, price-driven, is logistics-driven? Is there what is the value that you bring to the marketplace? And it goes back to what I said earlier about thinking like a business person. You really understand the industry that you're in, the niche that you're in, and consider your own organization's advantages over their principal competitors. Hopefully there are certain advantages that you have. What are they? Are they real? Are they imaginary? And could you articulate those advantages while you're standing in line at Starbucks? Okay? Be a valued resource to your clients or customers. This is really important for the scientist who is looking to make the jump into management. Being a sound scientist alone could make you lab bound, and maybe that's terrific. But if you're looking to make the change into management, leadership, ownership, you need to become much more client-oriented. And then finally, how do your customers see your business? Do you understand how they see your business? Do they see you as a commodity, or do they see you as a unique service provider with a unique expertise? And thinking about your business from their perspective, again, it's thinking beyond the lab and about the whole business that you're in.
Craig, those are excellent suggestions for current seekers and employees in the food sector. Let me ask you, as we think about what individuals can do. What can recruiters do better to help individuals achieve higher results in their careers?
Okay, the recruiting industry has moved over the years to essentially microeconomic models. And they've always been there. But the vast information resources that have evolved since the 1990s have placed so much more power in the hands of the hiring companies, at least insofar as sourcing potential candidates, that a third-party recruiter has to find a way to bring value that the client just cannot create internally. So when I say microeconomic models, I mean that in order to bring that value, you have to be immersed in a business sector. You have to know, if not everybody, practically everybody in that sector. So the recruiting industry has moved to the demands of the clients are that if you're going to bring value to me as a client, it's because you know that sector very, very well. You are immersed in that sector. So, in other words, being an executive recruiter who worked in food one day and electronics one day and in heavy manufacturing on another day, which is the way that we used to do it, that doesn't really work for clients anymore because clients have a lot more resources. They can do a lot of things internally, and so a recruiter has got to find that way to bring value. And he's got to bring to the table candidates that the client would not likely be able to develop on his own. And then once that happens, to help close that person. And how do you do that? By understanding the essence of the business that your client is competing in. And what are the business drivers? Maybe in the food safety business, maybe they're a diagnostics manufacturer. Maybe it's accuracy, fewer false positives, negatives, faster turnaround, maybe lower unit cost. Maybe it's scientific expertise and advisory services that the customer simply doesn't have in-house. As a recruiter, an external recruiter, it's important to understand the essence of your client's business and also the competitive landscape. What separates company A from B, from C, from a business standpoint, and also from an employer standpoint? Because after all, you're trying to recruit employees to that client. So the clients are going to have value propositions to the marketplace, to their customers or clients, but they're also going to have a value proposition to the employee arena as well. The management teams create cultures, personalities. The management teams create the work environment. Hopefully, each company has a way of doing things that works for them, and it works for them because it works for their clients or customers ultimately. And it's difficult to get a strategic perspective about a client's business without spending a lot of time with a senior management team. You don't get that perspective without spending a lot of time with the leadership and understanding their strategy. And, of course, to do that, you have to have their trust. They have to understand that you're going to be out there representing them, but they also trust you with sensitive information. You have to develop that kind of rapport where they will trust you with the kind of information that can help you do your job better. And then finally, if you're truly representing a client, you want to be an ambassador for your clients. You want to promote the client to the marketplace. And, of course, that ties into just that point I made earlier, that you have to have that trust. You have to have that understanding of their strategy and their leadership in order to really do that, to really be an ambassador for the clients, you have to really be immersed in that client, not just the sector, but in that client that you're working for.
Well, Craig, you certainly have added a lot of substantive information for recruiters. Let me think for a minute, or discuss with you, what can the organizations themselves do better to attract quality candidates?
Well, there are a number of things that they can do. There are, first of all, there are a lot of issues that organizations have in recruiting in this business that we can talk about, and maybe a good question is, why can't a company create and present a value proposition themselves as opposed to using a recruiter to do that? And I would say, well, they can if they're Apple or Google, because those companies have lots of buzz, they got lots of cachet that creates a magnetic pull to them. They've got great products, great working environments. That's a formidable combination, and a great value proposition. But our reality is that food safety is a very serious public health matter. Foodborne illness kills 3,000 Americans every year, and 50 million more get sick every year if you believe the CDC statistics. It's not a sexy, glamorous business. It's not gadget-oriented. It's not entertainment-oriented. Food safety is very expensive to administer, and yet it's practically anonymous. Andy, does the packaged product that you buy at the grocery store say, we screen for Salmonella, Listeria, and E. coli, although we can't guarantee that we screen this very product that you are about to consume? Of course not. The FDA...
Can I interrupt you here?
Yeah.
I wish they would. That's my whole mantra. It's testing and then releasing and then letting the consumer know that they actually did it. So go ahead. That's a great point.
Look, the FDA right here in Southern California has openly said that they screen maybe 2% of the imported food products hitting the local ports. You know that. I know that. We all know that. Anybody listening to this knows that already. That's our world. There's no glamour in that. And there's no acknowledged industry powerhouse in our business. There is no Apple or Google. I spend most of my time in the food quality, food safety arena, and I can't think of one company that is genuinely the standard bearer for the industry, widely regarded as the leader. It's a dogfight. So competitors naturally have difficulty peddling their uniqueness or their advantages to the marketplace as both an employer and a business provider with credibility. They can't necessarily offer a balanced perspective, or at least it doesn't appear to be a balanced perspective. And frankly, it shouldn't be, because it is, after all, a dogfight. So a company might have a cost advantage or an expertise or superior product or technology, but there isn't one company that's really a truly magnetic force drawing people to work there. And since the food safety universe is a small one, people tend to know each other, or at least are aware of each other. A company's reputation management is very important. So you have to, as an organization, treat candidates with respect, because they will be working for a competitor or a customer at some point if they aren't already. And confidentiality is a very important issue in a small universe where technical knowledge is valued and protected. If a company sees a controller, CFO, treasurer, they might well find a great candidate from outside their industry. Happens all the time. In our business, a VP Scientific Affairs is going to come from elsewhere in the business and very possibly from a competitor. This is where social media can be a slippery slope. Does that person, that scientific affairs person, want it known that he's talking to a competitor or connecting with a competitor? Is he disloyal? Or even worse, will it compromise strategic plans? All kinds of problems arise. Trade secrets, intellectual property, and depending on the state, non-compete agreements do have teeth. I know this. I've run into that many times over the years. Then also, does a number two scientific person who aspires to be a number one want it known that he's talking to a competitor? All the same problems arise, plus more. Can this person, this number two person, be trusted with a promotion, or do we now look outside? So, as far as your question, what can organizations do, or what should they do? First of all, recognize the shortage of managerial and leadership, especially leadership, talent amongst the scientific community. By nature, these are people who seek, explore, discover, confirm. They have a scientific discipline that makes them prone to be more process-oriented than result-oriented, and in many cases less comfortable in the gray areas of decision-making, which is, of course, where management and leadership comes into play. And also, companies need to recognize that your jobs aren't always and universally attractive. And many jobs, you know this, Andy, many jobs in the food safety arena are characterized by long hours, very hard, demanding work, lots of responsibility, but the pay isn't always commensurate. So how do you make that appealing? Well, it really depends on who you are, what company you are. Company A and Company B could be in the very same business, competing head to head, but they've got very different value propositions. So you, as an organization, you need to know your value proposition to the employee arena and communicate it. And when I say communicate it, I don't just mean in your job postings on Careers in Food or Indeed or Food HACCP or whatever site that you use. That's okay. It's fine. But at the end of the day, those are just words on a web page. So you communicate this through your own people, and you communicate it through your customers or your clients. And I'm talking about your employee value proposition here. You communicate it through third-party recruiters, like myself. But you also have to realize that the value proposition to the employee audience could be wildly different from the value proposition to your customer arena, and possibly in direct conflict. And I'll give you an example. I was at a trade show not too long ago, and I was standing with a top executive of a well-known food safety client. And while I was speaking with him, an individual, gentleman walked up and introduced himself. And it turned out he was a CEO of a food company here, actually in California, and he just wanted to stop by and introduce himself and tell my client what a great job his local people were doing for him. They talked for a minute, then he walked away, and then I said to my client, that must make you feel great. Guy, president of a company, comes out of his way just to tell you how great a job that you're doing for him. And my client said, well, not really. I'm obsessed with another client that doesn't think we're doing great work, and I can't get my mind off that. And I think that with the lesson learned there was that here's a client with a practically fanatical commitment to client service. And when I relay a little story like that to a prospective candidate, what the prospective candidate sometimes hears is, well, okay, that fanatical commitment to client service translates to very hard work. It translates potentially to a very high pressure. Will my rewards get recognized, or are we just fixated on the problems? And by the way, that fanatical commitment to client service doesn't come cheap, and that also translates potentially to a prospective candidate in a higher priced product. Okay, so what can happen here is that an individual can effectively screen himself out of the process when they hear that kind of story. And by the way, that's okay, because if you are a company that prides itself on that kind of client service, and you do charge a higher price for that, you want people to screen themselves out, because you want to only bring in individuals who are going to completely buy into that mentality. So, and there's some other things that companies can do and certainly are doing, and one of them is to create buzz for your company. Make yourself or make your organization relevant. Promote the big wins using public relations outlets, and promote your big wins through your people. But create a buzz about yourself, that your company is moving, that things are happening at your company. And certainly use social media. LinkedIn is certainly a great resource, but it's got definite limits, and I hit on those a few minutes ago, Andy, that there are confidentiality issues that can be serious, and they can be limiting. But certainly, I'm aware of many companies that are very, very active on LinkedIn in connecting with prospective candidates and promoting their organizations.
Craig, you have given us some excellent suggestions for the entire organizations. Can I focus for just a minute on what are the recruiting issues for organizations, in the sense that what can they do to attract, as you've already said, the best candidates and for the best fit? You've covered some of those issues already, but can you talk about the food safety business not being sexy? There's no acknowledged industry powerhouse. You talked about that. A small universe and the scientist mentality. Can you just kind of summarize your advice as an experienced recruiter to not only scientists but all food management personnel?
Yes, in the end, this is a terrific business to be working in. It's a vital business. It's a business that's in the news practically every day, and so it's a great business for longevity. but you have to buy into the some of the demands of this business. It's because it's not a glamorous business, and because it is practically anonymous. And there's a public health aspect to what we do, to what all of us do. We all are working ultimately in the aim of improving public health and preventing foodborne illness, and all of us who work in the industry are doing that. And there's a certain kind of, I guess you'd call it maybe psychic income that comes from providing that kind of service. But it's very, very competitive, and what people need to do is to enhance their ability to make the jump from the bench into management, and they do that by becoming that valued resource to the client, to becoming more of a business person and less of a scientist, or at least more of a business person. Okay, and organizations need to recognize that there is this shortage, and they can do two things. They can develop their own people internally, and I'm a huge proponent of that, of internal development, or they can go outside to bring in the resources that they need now or that they're going to be needing next year. But there is a shortage, and it is very real, and there are certain people in certain kinds of jobs who could get a job anywhere they want. Right? There are certain kinds of individuals who can go anywhere, and any company in the industry would hire them because they have those attributes. They have the technical knowledge, and they have the managerial perspective and experience, and they have the client orientation. Those people are golden. Okay, and there just aren't enough of them. So companies, you're either going to develop them internally, or you're going to have to steal somebody from a competitor or from another organization that may not be a competitor but has that kind of person.
Craig, can I ask you to prioritize the top areas where organizations are looking for people, and then the lowest type of organizational position that are being sought? And the reason for that question is that people always want to grade themselves. Are they heading toward the most desirable position, or they're going toward the most commodity type position?
So what is the kind of position that seems to be in terrific demand?
Yes.
Okay. All right. There are several, and there are lab management positions, both corporate or in-house food safety lab managers, and in some companies it might be on the microbiology side. In other companies it might be more on the chemistry side, and also with commercial labs. Those are positions that are in demand. People are in demand for those positions in commercial lab organizations, and those are for the most part microbiology positions. And your lab could be as few as one person, or it could have 50 or more. There are commercial labs in this country that have got upwards of 80 to 100 people in them. And then another area is in sales, business development. You've got your diagnostics manufacturers who are in need of sales, business development people, territory managers, and you've got service providers also who are looking for that kind of person, and so So sales business development is one. And then also, and I wouldn't say there's a huge demand because there aren't a lot of people like this in every organization. Any organization is only going to have one or maybe two really senior scientific leaders. And depending on their size, they might have two or three. But typically it's only going to be one or two, and that would be, a head of scientific affairs. And if you're a company in the food safety business, you really want to have at least a certain amount of expertise in-house, somebody working in your organization, wearing your hat, who brings at least a decent scientific knowledge, and to be supplemented by expertise that can be provided by a third party. But as food safety grows and grows as an industry, and the risks and exposures become greater and greater, and as with FSMA, Food Safety Modernization Act, kicking in as it has been and will continue to kick in over the next several years, it will be more and more important for companies to have a certain mastery of food safety science. And whereas now there are plenty of companies that can simply rely 100% on the expertise of a third party, I do think that more companies are going to be wanting to bring some of that in-house, and again, at least to some level, okay, and then supplement that with expertise from the outside.
Well, Craig, can I ask you a couple more questions about those top priority positions? What kind of incomes can individuals who are currently, let's say, a food laboratorian look at as a transition from being purely running tests to somebody who is a valued member of a management team?
You mean within the same organization? Going from
market. Just out in the market, what can they expect as a price increase on their services?
Well, it's interesting that the bandwidth of salaries is pretty broad from one company to another. Some companies will pay much better than others, and geography has something to do with that. But also some companies in the business put more business kinds of demands on lab managers, and so if a lab manager has client relations responsibility, then that kind of person is more valuable. And I think that someone like that can make, depending on geography and depending on the size of the lab, and these things are all factors that would affect that. But a lab manager can make $75,000, $100,000, or certainly, or considerably more than that, just depending on the size of the lab, the complexity of the lab, the kinds of services, the kind of expertise that they have, the kind of equipment they have, the number of shifts, the volume of tests or screens that they're doing, and again, geography, and also the amount of client relations responsibility. A person could make substantially more than that, and that is what I would think that many people would aspire to, because that's what really creates the value for the company is that client connection, that client relations experience, responsibility. That is, in some companies you don't get that. Some companies don't even want lab managers interacting to any significant level with the client. They might have a client relations department, and might have a business development sales department as well, but they may not want the lab management people even talking to clients. In my mind, I think that there's real potential there to retard the professional development of an individual if you do that, because that person is being limited. If you follow me, if you follow what I've been saying for the last 40 minutes about how important it is to get yourself out there and to be in a client-centric position.
Craig, your suggestions and advice are pivotal to professionals that want to increase their skill sets. Let's talk for a minute about your activities with the Southern California Association for Food Protection and how you've integrated your advice and your expertise with this association.
Well, I'm currently the vice president for SCAF, Southern California Association for Food Protection. I've been involved with the association for about 7 years, and that's about the time that I really started to concentrate in food safety and food quality, although I've been recruiting food quality executives for 20 years. In fact, it's been almost 20 years since I did a recruiting assignment for Keebler for a VP of quality. 18 years, I guess it's been. With SCAF, which is not just Southern California, it's called Southern California Association for Food Protection, the affiliate of the IAFP, but we also include Arizona and Nevada. And we have 4 programs a year that we put on, and typically they're down here in the Orange County area, that are geared toward what our particular affiliate feels are the most important topics to them. Now, for instance, our affiliate, we surveyed our membership back in December, and microbiological surveillance, pathogen detection, screening, prevention, that was the most often cited topic of interest to our local membership. And so we just did a program on Listeria mono in retail just last month, and we expect that we'll be doing more micro-oriented kinds of programs in the future. I, as a recruiter, I'm as vice president, and I've been secretary, and what I really do in my role is I create interest in SCAF, or try to create interest in SCAF, and I know that it is very important for professionals in this business to network and to become known for all the things that I named earlier. It's very important to get out there from a career development standpoint, and which is a separate component from the technical knowledge that hopefully you're going to pick up something. Anytime you come to our programs, we're going to put up an expert in that particular topic. So hopefully you'll leave a couple of hours later with something in your notebook that you didn't know before that you can take back to your job, whether you work for a food processor, a restaurant chain, distributor, or a diagnostics product company, or a service provider, or maybe you're an SQF expert. You take something back from that meeting that you can use on the job, information that you didn't have before, and hopefully you will have met a few people that you didn't know. So I see myself, my role, to answer your question, as an enabler, and I want to get people interested in the programs. I want them to attend the programs. We are redoing our website as we speak. We've been working on that for a few weeks, and we want to get people to visit our website and to get information off the website that they didn't have yesterday. And so that's really what I do, Andy. I guess I consider myself kind of an enabler.
Excellent. Well, Craig, you've certainly donated a lot of your time this morning to advise both organizations, candidates, and recruiters about the finalities of the food safety market for these skill sets. I'd now like to allow you to offer an advertisement for your firm and then conclude today's interview.
Well, thanks, Andy. And I work for a firm called Sweeney. I'm the senior partner of Sweeney. We are a small firm based in the Chicago area, and all of our partners have at least 20 years of senior level recruiting experience. In fact, I'm the junior member, really, of our firm. I'd say we're best characterized by a few guiding principles. We have a focused expertise in key industries. We believe it's important to be immersed in a certain industry. And of course, my key industry is food quality, food safety. We also believe in a hands-on approach. For the most part, we do all of our own research and candidate development. We feel it makes you more connected to the recruiting assignment and to the client, to the marketplace. We also believe in no blockages. In other words, we'll only have 1, 2 at the most active clients in any sector so that we can maximize our access to candidates. And finally, we believe in a personalized approach to our services. We're not rigid. We don't dictate the terms of our services. We don't have that kind of dogma, arrogance. It's important to be respectful and responsive to the unique needs of both the client and the candidate.
Excellent, Craig. Thank you so much for your time today, and I'd like to allow you now to have a final concluding statement.
Thank you, Andy. It's been a pleasure, and I'm happy to discuss some things that are, of course, very important to me as a professional, but I think very important to people in our industry. And I hope you all have a good day.
Thank you, Craig. Thank you for your participation. I know that your episode will be well listened to by many of the thousands of listeners to this show. And now, wish you a great day.
Take care.
Bye now.